We got to give him 2 seconds. Ready? Okay, I'm going to call the Coos Bay City Council meeting to order. If you want to rise, say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. Bob, you want to start us off?
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, first item on the agenda is public comments. We will go for 30 minutes, and if we need to continue on, then we'll bring it at the end of the council meetings because we have some presentations that our people here are going to be making. Also, council, I think you got an email from Roger in reference to Zonta, so I'd like to add them to the agenda. Let's make them 4A under the continuation of library bond discussion, because I think we have some people online that are also going to be participating. All right. Council comments, public comments to begin with. Geneva Martinez. Hello, how are you? If you just give the city where you reside is all we need.
My name is Genevieve and I reside in North Bend. As a member of the LGBTQIA community, it is my affirmation that the Coos Bay City Council addresses and faces the discrimination and harassment that this sub-community is plagued with. I, as well as various others within Safer as One, have determined that discussion be opened for an essential LGBTQIA+ safe house to be established in Coos Bay with the support of Coos Bay City Council. The need for this place is long overdue, as the concept of this has been trying to take off for over 10 years. The stories I've been told of my community, of my friends, is heart-wrenching. There should be no reason that someone must desensitize themselves to slurs because of the commonality of it in their school. There is no excuse. There's no excuse for the fear youth face when going home to an unaccepting family. Because how is one to say, I love you, to people who would rather see your kind wiped from existence? From the lack of LGBT+ clubs at school that could provide a temporary safe haven from bullies, to community harassment that comes seemingly out of nowhere, self-identities have been disregarded, and it seems as though discrimination is the only thing that is accepted here without much second thought. The sub-communities know where it comes from, and it is the tolerance for it built from the lack of action to defend these youth. The establishment of this alternative home would enrich the culture of the community by showing regard to the distress that this sub-community faces and can start the uphill climb to acceptance and diversity in Coos Bay. Here, individuals of the LGBT community can find allies that can support them and guide them through trying and confusing times. It was stressed recently in a Facebook post from Coos Bay City Government that it has made a commitment to take actions aimed at helping the citizens of Coos Bay feel safe, respected, and represented, and will continue to partner with key stakeholders within the community to create change. That being said, we as a sub-community want to challenge the council's claim. We want to see the council acknowledge the fact that youth are reluctant to or even unable to return home because their family does not agree with their existence, and that those who end up homeless because they express their true selves need to have a safe space. These grievances need to be addressed promptly and properly so we may finally be represented by the council that this town holds in such high esteem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you already have did you? No, you did not. I apologize. Thank you. Next one, Cameron Langley.
Hi, Cameron Langley from Coos Bay. Good evening. 2 weeks ago, I asked you to support Safer as One's proposition for a committee for social, cultural, and community development and representation, because local governments like ours should lead the way on giving its subcommunities more equitable representation. Though I come to you today to remind you all that racial violence is still occurring in your city, and it needs to be addressed before a modern-day lynching takes place. To start off, on August 8th, we took to the streets and marched for Black Lives, despite numerous threats that had already been lobbed at demonstrators and the event itself. Counter-protesters followed us around, trying to goad us into conflict with them. When we were outside City Hall that day, a black woman was slapped by a white man in front of CBPD officers that didn't move a muscle. Neither did they act when we were alarmed by a possible sniper threat. Officers of CBPD would later bump fists with homophobic counter-protesters after assaulting a pregnant demonstrator. Then, a few days ago in Empire, a black man on his balcony witnessed another black man being chased by a white man who was calling him an N-word and wielding a machete. CBPD showed up, searched for 5 minutes, and left. More recently, and most heinously, at a Safer as One daily demonstration at the boardwalk, we watched a white man pull up to the light at the eastern end of Anderson in a light gray pickup, physically lean his body out the truck window, and say in broad daylight, "F you, you stupid N-word loving mother effers. White power. Those effing N-words hate you. You know that? They hate you. Them N-words hate you. White power." And then he drove away. The hate here is becoming more blatant and more dangerous, and your simple statements on racism are not going to stop white supremacists from harming your people of color. Counselors, police, staff, we grow tired of asking, what are you going to do? You need to treat this as if Coos Bay were in a state of emergency, because for many BIPOC here, it is. And you need to take action before somebody gets lynched, or their blood will be on your hands. Do something. Figure it out. Coos Bay Black Lives Matter.
Cameron, you also have a written response, right, for public comment. All right, Mitch Kennedy. You got to keep your mask up, Mitch, please. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. My name is Mitch, and I reside in Coos Bay. Over the last several months, I have watched as terrible events have unfolded before the very eyes of the citizens of Coos Bay in person, via social media, and city council meetings. The racism and prejudice that is present in this beautiful town is astonishing and disheartening to a good amount of people in Coos Bay, and sickening outside communities so bad that even police force feel the need to comment on the conduct of our police force. For 73 days, citizens have emailed, called, written letters, and even sat on the very front porch of your city hall while knowingly putting their lives at risk due to death threats that have been reported, and your police force has chosen not to respond or even acknowledge it at one point. Pleaded for you to break your silence and do something so that the sub-communities in this city can feel safe and accepted in their very own city. Many human beings have called, emailed, and written, as well as attended multiple city council meetings asking you to do something for the other sub-communities that make up your revenue during off-season. This town is tourist-based, and many in outside cities are calling for Coos Bay to be avoided and to take their money elsewhere, because still nothing has been done in regards to your whole community. To date, you've released Resolution 2019 that nobody wanted, and cute, pretty, smoothed out letters you think will suffice and make you look good. Now there is an internal investigation for the conduct of the police of your town, and citizens are asking for the resignation of your mayor, and still you say nothing. We have made public comments and stood outside and listened, and either hardly anything is said, a victim's name is stated during an ongoing investigation, thus putting that victim at danger, or nothing is said in regard to the public comments that are made to you. We are the workers that make up your town. Please stop ignoring us and address this. Thank you.
Thank you. And you also have a written comment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Amber, Carl? Thanks, Nicole.
Hi, my name is Amber Carl, and I'm from Richmond. I'd like to start this by saying that I think the Bay Area is naturally beautiful. I think that there's a lot of potential here for expansion and inclusion, and I believe that there are a lot of amazing people that live here. Nobody wants to feel like their home is not the best place to be. People get very offended by the phrase Coos Bay is a racist town because they do not consider themselves to be racist or bigoted. However, I think recent events have shown something that I've noticed my whole life growing up here, and that is that even if the majority of people here are not racists or bigots, they are very comfortable expressing themselves very vocally and aggressively. I feel like the town has not done enough to condemn this behavior, which has just given a sense to individuals that they are supported in the things that they say. Although we will disagree on how to handle the racism and bigotry and how much actually exists here, we should at least be able to agree that if people feel safe to scream the N-word casually on a regular basis in broad daylight at Black citizens and peaceful protesters, or if they feel safe in dehumanizing a trans man because they don't understand how to be decent human beings, or if they feel safe to make threats in our online communities and in person toward those same citizens without the fear of punishment, that we have a problem. The city should be capable of denouncing racist and bigoted behavior regardless of how often you feel it happens. Anytime that it happens is too often. Bigotry, hatred, and racism towards the LGBTQIA and the BIPOC members of this city should be treated as an attack against everyone. If the behavior is not something you would want your mother, your sister, your son, or your grandchild to experience, then other members of the city and visitors to it should not be forced to experience these things either. And when it does happen, they should feel safe that the officials in their city stand with them. Even if you don't recognize how much of a problem it is, acknowledging that it is a problem is the first step. By dismissing the fact that a problem exists, you have emboldened those who would bully, target, and attack the people speaking about it online and in person. They feel justified in their anger and hate because you are silent and do not openly condemn their behavior. At almost every opportunity, instead of saying Coos Bay will not stand for racism or bigotry here under any circumstances, the city has instead chosen to admonish protesters and several BIPOC members of their actions of expressing their First Amendment. It isn't enough to say we are not okay to be racist and bigoted. We need to make the city somewhere that racists and bigots don't feel comfortable verbally attacking or otherwise spewing hatred. If you don't know how to begin addressing the racism here to make the city safe, start by asking BIPOC and LGBTQIA residents how you can support them. Silence is violence, and when you are silent to racism and bigotry, you allow it to grow and fester, and you will not be silent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, hearing none. I just wanted to mention that Rob Miles got tied up at work, had some technical problems, new servers or whatever. Carmen, we didn't hear that he wasn't going to be attending, so he still might show up. Anyway, next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Council?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
And just so is there any discussion? I just want to bring to everyone's attention, we got a few grants that we're accepting, I think that we were notified on, and also we're doing a block grant fund, Francois Works, is that correct? Yeah. So anyway.
Did you want Roger to talk about that, Mr. Mayor?
No, I don't think so, unless you want any clarification. I just want to reference that we got it on there, which is nice that we got these grants. So anyway, any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. So the next item is the continuation of library bond discussion. So Sammy, are you going to start this?
Yes. Just as a summary, the issue of placing a general obligation bond. Am I echoing badly for you guys? On the May 2021 ballot to fund a new library facility was discussed during the January 28th, 2020 meeting. During the City Council work session, and then approved at the February 4th, 2020 City Council meeting. At the meanwhile, at the July 8th, 2020 Library Steering Committee meeting, a consultant by the name of PacWest presented some potential new funding opportunities through the Oregon legislature that may alter the date of the bond that when it was placed on the ballot. This information will be presented by the PacWest team tonight during this meeting.
Should I come in now, Sammy?
Go ahead, Ann. Thanks.
Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Ann Johnson. I'm with PacWest, and I'm your lobbyist. And we have been looking over the information that we were sent, and I'm going to let Phil Schroyers, he's my coworker, and this is really his expertise field, and
I'm going to let him talk about some options that we came up, that we presented to the steering committee, and let you see what you think about some of the options that he has. And I will be on the line if you have any further questions. Phil, are you on the line? Phil?
Phil might be muted.
Is he muted?
Twice.
Are you there?
There he is.
There you go.
Okay, sorry, it was transferring my laptop instead of my desk display. I apologize about that. So thank you so much, Ann, and thank you for to the city council members and mayor for allowing us to join you tonight. I just to Ann's point, last time we visited with you, we were talking about this library bond moving forward and helping it find a successful pathway to getting completed. In our process of having conversations, we have obviously been going through some of the issues we're seeing with COVID, but we've been tracking it very closely regarding how it's playing out with the elector, seeing how bond measures are passing and how they are not. We watched very closely during the May election primary season to see how that played out, which in more of the urban areas definitely we didn't really see an effect of COVID. Bonds were passing left and right. There were a few, however, when you looked at just rural areas, that it was maybe about a quarter of them did not move forward. In reviewing some of the information that we received about just the construction costs or the assessment costs, we had presented to the Library Advisory Committee that there's maybe an opportunity on the table, hearing some of the conversations that are going around capital construction. We were looking at a timeline of a May election and realized that coincided pretty well with some of the discussions that are being held by the legislative leadership regarding a potential economic stimulus package that they would like to advance during the 2021 legislative session. That goes into session. They convene in January and then recess, but they start full 6 month session where they start talking about budgets for the 21-23 biennium. But part of that budget is where they start allocating additional capital construction projects. They will start those discussions when they get there in February, and that will play out through June. And one of the conversations we were having was the emphasis that they were wanting to put into rural capital construction and investments. The conversation playing out with legislative leadership and even the executive branch has showed that they are trying to look at a recovery process for rural Oregon similar to or in contrast to what happened during the Great Recession. They looked back at some of the numbers and saw that rural Oregon did not recover at the same speed or at the same pace as urban Oregon. And so they have started to show indications that they have interest in the significant capital investment stimulus bond package. They expect about $200 to $300 million of debt service to be paid off at the end of this year, which would free up additional opportunities for bonding projects going into the next biennium. And just taking that conversation and overlaying it with the conversation we were having regarding the library, we felt like it would be derelict in our advice or counseling to not at least raise it to your view that there might be an opportunity to leverage the state to put money towards this project. It would we presented three different options. One was you could move forward with a May election and just we do a traditional election. You campaign for it and hope you get the yes votes. But there were a second and third option on the table. The one is going into the legislative session with this project being advocated for, sharing that it's not just a library, but it can be used as a multi-use facility for the community. There's a absolute welcoming reception when we talk about this project as a way to serve the community because it needs to be brought out of the tsunami zone. There's also an understanding that this facility could act as a potential emergency response facility for the community as well, and that would also have to then make sense to not be in the tsunami zone. That we thought would allow us to start having conversations on the front end of a session before May election, and within February and March, kind of get a feel of whether there's an appetite for the legislature to appoint a certain portion of funding towards this project. In our option 2 path, we could then go to voters and say that there is a match, that while the city is asking for voters to approve a bond, that there would be an opportunity for, if this is approved, to have the state also come in with funds. The reason I would say that there would be a match opportunity is because we're seeing a cycle of projects coming out of capital construction subcommittees in Salem where they invest in local communities, but they want to see, their skin in the game. So they've been putting verbiage in bills that will say, we allocate, $5, $10, $15 million towards this project, contingent that there's a one-to-one match from the local community or one-to-one match for the project. So I think that puts you in a strong position to, one, if the state is going to make investments, those are your tax dollars. We should be advocating for those dollars to come to Coos Bay. And it only furthers and strengthens the opportunity to pass a bond and get this project fully funded. So that was option 2. The other option was, let me clarify. Option 2 was advocating for that. But if we didn't get the feeling that we would have a firm yes or no in February or March, we could then proceed still with May. The third option was getting that reassurance of a yes, we could get funding, and then that would move to a November ballot so that we can start having those conversations and have it play out in the bill that's passed. Just for timeline purposes, the legislature would meet in February. They start doing all of these discussions about the budgets. They start having conversations about capital construction and playing out the scenario that we are getting good signs, we're having positive feedback from legislators, and that in this economic stimulus package that they're putting together, we are successful in getting funding towards the Coos Bay Library project. That bill would they usually pass the last few weeks of session, and that's traditionally the end of June or beginning of July. And so in our option, we thought that would then allow us to move that to a November election, and within our campaign, talk about the importance of having a state match into this project. So with that said, I just wanted to pause and see if there was any questions, but we wanted to just share with you the conversation we've been having, which is we think there's an opportunity here. There's, regardless if it's a May or November election, I know that there might have been some decisions of moving it just to November, but I think it would be a lost opportunity to try not to advocate to have some state funding towards this project. It lessens the tax burden on the locals if the state, on the local levies, if the state comes in with some few bucks. And again, like I've always been an advocate, these are your tax dollars, they're going to be spent, they should be spent in your community, otherwise they're going to be in a project somewhere else. So I guess I just wanted to pause real quick because I just threw a ton of information at you and see what your thoughts were.
Comments? I don't think so. I think it's clear.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, so just to follow up on that, then I would just say that we didn't want to just wait around, and so we have started a little bit of conversation in the Capitol of just trying to bring this project, this importance of the project to the forefront of people, specifically key legislators. We also, in the back of our mind, have been looking at other funding mechanisms as well, should we look out and find that. I've had some success talking with Business Oregon about the Community Development Block Grant. While traditionally when we first looked at this and I see in the report that it wouldn't have qualified, I visited with some folks that if we tweak it a little bit and make it a little bit more general purpose and have a little bit of tracking, more tracking involved with what activities are going in for the duration of that CBD grant, that we might qualify. So it would just be rewording or restructuring some things. And we, of course, never want to do it to the point where it goes beyond the scope the city council would wants it for. But if it's just a matter of saying, this is a library and a multi-purpose building, if it's that easy, then we still want to uncover every rock, overturn every rock, and look for the bucks where they can before going out for a common measure. But that is where we're moving, and I hope that we kind of give your blessing in doing that. We want to make sure that we're bringing every dollar home that we can.
Well, thank you, Bill.
All right, Bob, you have any comments? Nope. All right, well, as you see the information before us, and the committee, the steering committee, library steering committee, has suggested that we place this bond potentially, as they mentioned, on November 2021. So anyway, hopefully we will get some grant money from the state. Would be nice.
Mr. Mayor, may I request, Phil gave us a lot of information and it's very straightforward, but it would be really nice if we could receive it in some sort of brief, just outlining the options that he spoke about. Just because I want to make sure that when we have this conversation in a year, I'll remember what we actually talked about. So it would be very helpful to me.
I understand. So we'll be able to do that?
Yes, Mayor, we can absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the information and the report by both of you. And good to hear from you.
Thank you. We actually have that report from the steering committee, so I can forward that on to Roger and he can get that out to y'all in the morning.
Perfect.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So I would assume, given that we had consensus, to go ahead and change the date from the May projected date for May instead to November.
Do you want a motion on that?
We probably should. I think we made the council made a motion and took a vote when you moved it to the May date.
I'll make a motion to approve the library steering committee recommendation that we move the date of placing the bond from May 2021 to November 2021.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to take the library steering committee's recommendation to put the bond on ballot November 2021. Any other comments or discussion on this? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes. Thank you. The next item is
Thank
the
you.
item that we added. I think you have some documentation in your folder about Zonta asking for us to. Roger, you want to handle this, or want to share with the council that received on behalf of Zonta writing to inquire about using some cement space for the project called Chalk the Vote. They're looking at the information center to do this. Melissa, please.
Okay.
Just the city where you reside and your name.
Okay, my name is Melissa Coos, and I reside.
And you can move that. You want to wipe for that?
What's that?
You want to wipe for
The podium?
the
Oh,
I have a wipe.
okay.
If you want to borrow my wipe, yes, there you go.
In a second, so, okay, there we go.
All right.
Okay, let's see. So I'm here representing Zonta tonight, and I think most of you are familiar with the Zonta Club of the Coos Bay area. So the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage is coming up on August 26th, and that actually happens to coincide with Farmers Market Day. So there's this program called Chalk the Vote, and it's actually put out by the Historical Society. And basically, it's a very simple idea. You go out, you gather a group of people, no more than 10 in this situation. You know, we're all going to be masked up. And then we go out and write what we're going to do with the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. So eliminated the discrimination based on gender. My idea, well, our idea, was to do it at this area up in the visitor center. It's my great photoshopping here. I drew a square. So there we go. And we just basically write the 19th Amendment. And, well, not the whole thing, but, you know, just the brief, just partial of it. And then write something about Zonta Club of the Coos Bay area. Super simple. We're just going to do fancy writing and have that up. There's a couple of other organizations, the History Museum and also the League of Women's Voters are doing similar projects around town as well. So And they're doing it from the 24th through the 29th in different places. And the History Museum has offered up some of their space to do it. And then they're also encouraging businesses to allow people to do it on their property as well. So this is sort of just in addition to that, and to have sort of more of a presence at the farmers market and to be seen. And I think it's beneficial, really, I mean, for visitors to see, you know, an active community coming in and, you know, supporting active democracy, you know, because you have to work for democracy. And so I think it would really reflect well on the city to have this little project, and it's completely temporary. Obviously, take the hose to get rid of it when it doesn't look good anymore. So I'm here to ask the permission if we can do this outside of the visitor center.
Okay, so Roger, you want to give us
Sure. What we need to address here is the city has a graffiti ordinance, and it specifically addresses many ways of graffiti implementation, including chalk. The ordinance does give the authority to put graffiti down, such as it is, by the property owner. I know that staff at the police department is concerned, and I know that the operator or the manager of the visitor center is concerned. Not because of the message, but because we've been the victim of numerous graffiti incidents. In fact, we had one yesterday down at the visitor center where we had to close the bathrooms and repaint one of them. And they're concerned that if we do that, that we're gonna foster more of it. The other thing is, and you've got to be careful here because you're going to run into a freedom of speech issue here, is you can't allow one and not allow others, because then you're going to be regulating content. And that's why you have an ordinance that precludes that from happening. I have heard from Councilor Miles, because I know it was mentioned near the Fireman's Memorial. He's definitely against that because he doesn't want to take away from honoring our firefighters who lost their lives. Your visitor center manager doesn't want it there because she doesn't want to promote more vandalism that's occurring down there. It's a dicey situation at the moment. You obviously have the authority to approve it. The question is then who will remove it? How long does it stay up?
Roger, do we have the ability, since the street is blocked off, to do it in the middle of the street without, and would that change kind of the landscape, because it wouldn't be the visitor center, or are we still running into that issue of graffiti?
Well, it wouldn't be considered graffiti if you approve it. You're just going to have a difficult time if someone else comes up and asks you to put something on the street.
Okay.
The street might not be the best. If it was me asking you, I would probably say not the street, because no one will ever see it because people are walking through it. If I was to make a recommendation, I would make a recommendation to Zonta to contact Jardin at the Black Market Gourmet, who has freshly painted or seal-coated parking lot where the chalk can be seen better. It's on private property, and he has the ability to say yes or no to anyone. And I don't know that the parking lot's used that much.
What about the possibility of the pre-way, the floor of the pre-way, not the building walls?
Staff talked about that as well. I think the only concern was they just don't want to give anybody the license or the self-appointed license to do anything on the murals.
So what
we might be overly cautious. We're just very concerned with the numerous cases of graffiti in the last 3 months.
And what we do for one, we do for all.
You definitely have to be careful. If Nate was here tonight, he would warn you about trying to regulate content.
I'm just curious, it's not words, but when the Blackberry Arts Committee worked with the Art Museum to do sidewalk art during the Blackberry Arts Festival, was that prior to this graffiti ordinance? Or does it become a graffiti type thing because these are words, not pictures?
I think the graffiti ordinance itself has been in existence since the 80s, and I don't believe anybody asked for permission. It just happened, and it was part of the event. they had an event license. You know, the other thing that could happen is that a large piece of plywood could be purchased, painted black, and the chalk put on that and stood up somewhere in the mall blocks where people could see it.
That's a cool idea. You like that idea?
And that could be arranged to the downtown association if they do have a permit to operate there. And there are many blank spaces between the vendors because they're trying
It
to
actually
maintain
might
social
beautify
distancing.
that since we have to keep spacing, so much spacing between vendors down there.
So where exactly are you talking about?
There,
Maybe on
he's
Central.
suggesting on
Central?
Central, so like maybe each block has something.
Yeah, because the downtown association operates the farmers market.
Yeah.
And so they spread them out, so there's 10-foot distancing.
Yeah.
And what they're suggesting is, since they regulate that, then they have the availability to allow you to put something like that in there, maybe on a piece of plywood and in between some of the booths. And so as when people are walking down Central, they would see it. In fact, you could do more than one if you wish.
Okay.
And then it's technically not on city property because it's on a piece of plywood.
And then it's like a vendor basically that the downtown association would oversee. And so that way it's regulated by them, and that way we're not involved on the legalities of content of somebody else coming up and wanting us to allow them to do something.
Well, okay. I see where you're coming from with that, and actually the practicality of doing it on plywood is fine with me. But I will say that if the content is so explicit that you wouldn't want it on city property, there should be a rule about the explicit content.
We don't have that availability. I mean, I don't know what we can and cannot allow, but it's pretty broad when it comes to, I mean, we don't have our city attorney here, but it's pretty broad on what freedom of speech that would allow.
Yeah, I think Nate would tell you, and we talk about this when we talk about how we regulate signs in the city. We do not regulate content of signs. We regulate placement and the manner in which they go in. Where can they go? What's the requirements that go in there? This is hotly contested issue across the United States and generally a subject that's been visited numerous times to the Supreme Court.
Can we put the, I'm picturing a really big piece of plywood. Can we do that in front of the visitor center? Or is that still a challenge?
No, I think it could be in front of the visitor center because it's not being put on the lettering is not being applied on the property, it's being applied on a board.
What do you think of that?
That is fine with me. And so are we getting permission to lay down a piece of plywood then in front of the visitor center?
Or stand up a piece
I
of
think
plywood?
you could actually even lean it up against the Prefontaine Memorial against the legs so people could see it.
Well, I mean, I know that Zonta wants to be right at the farmer's market just to have that visibility. So that was the point of the location there. So if we could get doing the multiple things would be great, but it's next week, you know, and I would have to get a lot of people together in order to do this. I mean, so we're taking a super simple project and making it really complex.
Well, even if you did one and you want to put it at the beginning of the farmers market with the approval of the downtown association, you could do that. So when they walk across, it's there in the front.
Okay.
It depends. I mean, I don't know where you want to place it. I don't know where the downtown association would like it to be placed or not placed either. I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but.
Okay.
I mean, Stephanie, I don't know. You're on the board. You see an issue?
I really don't. I think it's a great project, and I think it's a creative project. You know, I'd like to see some way to make this happen, and I would be happy to put you in touch with the people that could make that decision. Isn't Mel part of your organization?
Maybe.
Hazard?
I don't know her personally.
She is the farmers market manager, and I think she is a Sanchin because
Okay.
she worked on the fundraising committee.
Okay.
Are you just doing this for 1 week?
Yeah, it's just for this one day. It's just because it's the 100th anniversary
Sure.
of the U.S. Constitution is sitting of voting rights to women.
I mean, there's a lot of amendments, and so all these amendments are going to be placed in different
No,
places.
just the 19th.
Okay.
No, not all of the amendments.
The
because
most
that would-
important one, Mr. Mayor.
I got it.
That would,
Remember,
that would
we
be a
vote.
lot. That would be a lot of
Right.
to do all of the amendments. But no, so we're just focusing on the 19th.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be super. So okay, the takeaway here is we can put it on a piece of huge piece of plywood.
My understanding, so you can put up a piece of plywood, and if you want it somewhere close to the visitor information, the Prefontaine, memorial down there would be a good spot to put it, or approved at this time. Or if you want to come further down into where the farmers market is, then the downtown association, more than likely, depending on their board, I mean, I would say for sure, but more than likely you could put it on a piece of plywood and put it somewhere, or multiple ones if you wish, but at least one, wherever you like. And that's on Central.
Right.
And you would just have to, work it out with them where you think it would be appropriate for you and them.
And then you can, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So basically, a piece of plywood that we're painting chalk paint on, and then you could still do chalk the vote if that works for you.
I know. I apologize for the, it's a lot, but it's just something that we're dealing with, and it could just get out of hand, I think. And without having Nate here to be more explicit about it, which if you want to wait and talk to him about that we can do that too. If you want more detail.
It's fine. I don't want to make a huge
Well, I mean,
of it. And I understand where you're coming from as far as setting precedents. And I was not aware of that there's been a graffiti problem. I mean, I saw the one thing in the paper a couple months ago, but okay. Well, I will bring that back to Zonta.
Melissa's email address is super easy. It's coosbayfarmersmarket@gmail.com.
Oh, Melissa.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. When you said Mel, that threw me off. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yes. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And
it's good to see you.
Yes, good to see you as well. And maybe we'll see a big black.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is going to be the public hearing. Public hearing will be held to consider approval of the proposed amendment of Coos Bay Municipal Code Title 17. We started this, the Planning Commission, if I understand. Carolyn, you want to start us off with are you there? There you are.
Certainly. Can you hear me?
Yes. So we'll start you off with the presentation.
Hello. Thank you. Council, you met back in July of this summer, and the Planning Commission met in August on the 11th to go over the draft TSP. And I'd like to just do a brief recap. Our consultant representative, Angela Rogue, is here, and she will also be providing a brief presentation. The work on this transportation system plan is required by the state of Oregon. We worked with ODOT, David Evans and Associates, and Angela Planning Group on this over the course of the last 2 years or so. Probably longer than that. I'll let Angela speak to that just a little bit. We came to some consensus on how this would be put together with the engagement and advisement of the Public Advisory Committee, and that has been ongoing since the beginning of the project. We are looking at a situation where we've outlined a lot of different features of a transportation system. Angela will go into that further, and we have developed an ordinance for your adoption to consider that after your public hearing has ended. I think it's important to note before Angela gets started that a number one priority out of this whole system was that the existing facilities that we have be maintained and improved. And she will go over those types of projects and a discussion of tier 1 and 2 projects as well. After that, she'll hand it back to me to talk about zoning regulation amendments. And then we would suggest that you get started with your discussion, hold a public hearing, and take action tonight. Angela?
Hello. My name is Angela Rogi. I'm with David Evans and Associates. I'm going to share my screen here, but I just wanted to introduce myself and let you see my face. So there, bear with me. All right. I'm sorry, I have multiple screens open, so it's wanting to share on the other screen. Let me make sure that it's on the correct. There you go. Are you seeing the presentation on the screen?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So as Carolyn mentioned, this has been in front of the Planning Commission already, and actually this presentation has also already been seen by some folks on the City Council. In the interest of not repeating myself too much, I will go through the high points, and then if there are questions, I'm happy to circle back or answer those for you. So what is a transportation system plan? It ultimately will be adopted as the transportation component of your city's comprehensive plan. It's a blueprint for all modes of travel within the city of Coos Bay and helps establish kind of a plan for moving forward just in case funding becomes available or development wants to occur. It's important to have a plan on paper that says, well, this is kind of the vision that Coos Bay has for its transportation system, not only for vehicles, but also for bicycles and pedestrians and how that connects to transit and your community centers. TSPs are required by the Transportation Planning Rule for the state of Oregon. And, most critical, I think, is that it helps map out goals for this community and puts down on paper what could be used to pursue additional funding sources and attract and secure funds. For example, the city has been very successful with the Safe Routes to School program. And so having a transportation system plan that says, hey, we have deficient sidewalks near this school helps really let funding sources know that you've thought about your community's transportation system and its needs. The project team involved Coos Bay, City of North Bend, the consultant team, and the Oregon Department of Transportation, which actually funded this project. We also had a planning advisory committee that was made up of representatives from both cities, the county, and also tribal representation. In addition to that, the residents of Coos Bay and North Bend also played a role in reviewing documents and attending public meetings. As Carolyn mentioned, it's been about a 2-year process, just over that. We kicked off the project in June of 2018, and since then have met with advisory committee and had public meetings for major project milestones throughout the planning process. It was kind of an incremental step-by-step process to look at, what our baseline conditions are, what's happening in the city of Coos Bay, where are deficiencies, and then moving to understand what, based on current land use assumptions and population forecasts, what could the future of Coos Bay look like, and where do we need to make sure we're keeping the transportation system maintained or improved. And that'll led us to developing a list of alternatives and narrowing them down through a fatal flaw process, as well as measuring it against the goals of the community. As part of that, there is a code and policy piece that is needed to make sure that our transportation system plan for your community aligns with your code and policies that you've already adopted and that guide your decisions. And so we suggested a few code and policy changes that Carolyn will go over in a bit. And finally, what that leads to is a transportation system plan that is based on the goals and objectives of your community. And so, as a big part of the TSP that I think everyone's most excited about and usually tend to focus on are the projects that we develop. You know, what comes out of this TSP. We have two lists, a tier 1, which we think these projects could, it's feasible that they could be constructed within the funding that's anticipated through year 2040. And then we also have a list of tier 2 projects, which some of them might be lofty goals, but they are needed, and they just don't have an identified funding source at this time. These 2 tiers are not really listed. The projects listed within tier 1 are just listed. They're not assigned any priority because we understand that needs and funding changes from year to year. And so the city's not required to implement these projects identified before any other projects. Priorities could change, and the city is free to pursue any of these opportunities at any time, as well as any that are not currently listed on this tier 1 or tier 2 list. If there are projects that come up, maybe through a capital improvement plan every couple years update, then that's totally fine with us. So the tier 1 projects, generally, what we heard early on in the process and throughout the whole planning process was that we need to maintain the system that we have. And so operations and maintenance is expected to be what the city focuses on initially, to make sure that we're trying to address pavement concerns and rehabilitate roads that might have fallen into disrepair. That said, as part of those rehabilitation projects, there could be opportunities to pair with some of these other, bicycle, pedestrian, or wayfinding projects at the same time. Many of the projects help to connect the city of Coos Bay's pedestrian system to community features, as well as implement some wayfinding and connections for bicycle facilities, both within Coos Bay and also to the Oregon Coast Bike Route, which is a separate planning process that we've been coordinating with to make sure that it's known that the city would really like to see a connection from the Oregon Coast Bike Route to downtown Coos Bay. One project that may not be in the draft plan, but it will be incorporated with our final revisions, is a potential intersection improvement to improve safety and traffic flow at Empire Boulevard and Newmark Avenue. We expect that with future development, this intersection will become, something that needs to be improved. And so the language that we propose in the TSP is listed here for your review. Essentially, that a traffic impact analysis that was done for a development proposal, which was outside the scope of the TSP, indicates that further evaluation is needed of Empire and Newmark to accommodate traffic and future development within the 2040 planning horizon. We anticipate that improvements would qualify as a tier 1 project, and the design and concept of that intersection would have to occur through an expanded analysis as part of the development process. Then we kind of jump into the tier 2 projects, which there are, more sidewalk and pedestrian improvements, potentially finalizing the Ocean Boulevard road diet, as well as adding bicycle facilities throughout the city. Continued are some more projects. These focus more on downtown curb bump outs and safety, and getting intersections up to snuff. These projects listed on this page require coordination with a partner agency. This means that the Coos Bay has identified this as a need and a desire, but maybe Coos Bay isn't the owner of that facility, and so there's the TSP is saying, hey, Coos County, ODOT Rail, Airport, this is something we need and we support you, and if there's a way to help get these projects going, we'd like to know how we can be of assistance. And that's continued here again with some additional projects that are focused on rail and access management. And then again, there's some more here that are on the ODOT facilities that have been identified to make freight access, to continue to improve freight access on 101, recognizing it is a freight route. All right, Carolyn, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Certainly. One of the things that was noted was that we are looking at a comprehensive plan update, and under state law, when you do that, you need to have consistency between your comprehensive plan and your development code, which is to implement the plan. There's a number of things that we're looking to do, and I'd like to kind of trim them into a nutshell version. One is we're looking at expanding some development standards and statements of intent about transportation in the commercial mixed-use district, the waterfront heritage area, and the Hollering Place districts. We are also identifying boardwalk potential along the Hollering Place and the waterfront industrial district. Additionally, we're looking at policies that would accommodate transit use parking, like park and ride type facilities, required crosswalks throughout parking areas for larger parking lots, bicycle parking requirements, pedestrian access requirements, and other requirements for transit facilities. A big piece of what we're looking at is some of the code sections need to be internally consistent, so this will achieve that. For instance, our clear vision area requirements, and when you turn out on an intersection, they haven't always been consistent between our different code chapters, and we're going to make sure that's correct now. We're adding some parking requirements that we don't have currently, and we're also including language that would require easement dedication for access along Front Street. Right now, the alignment for the planned the Coos waterfront walkway traverses land that's zoned industrial commercial waterfront heritage. So we want to make sure that there's consistency between all these different zones where we want that pedestrian amenity. So that is about what I have, unless there were specific questions about some of these amendments. We're recommending to the council that you accept public testimony on this, and barring any issues or problems that you think need to be addressed, we're recommending that you adopt the attached ordinance. And I'd like to note that in that ordinance, it's fairly lengthy. We're looking for your concurrence with findings of fact that are in Exhibit A. Exhibits B and C are the documents themselves. And then Exhibit D are the very many amendments that I just referenced. So unless you have any questions, that's all I have.
Council, any
for now.
questions? For either one? Anyone? I guess not, Carolyn. Next item we're going to do is we'll have I'll open a public hearing to consider approval of proposed amendment to the Coos Bay Municipal Code, Title 17, and update to the comprehensive plan transportation element. So any public comments at this time on this issue or this item? Hearing no public comments, I will close the public hearing at this time. Okay, now we need to review the Planning Commission recommendation. Is that correct?
That's correct. The Planning Commission has recommended you adopt the TSP and the related amendments in the attached ordinance.
Are you going to review that with us, Carolyn, or we just need to read it here, or what?
I'm recommending that you adopt the ordinance, and okay. I can frame a motion if you, you would like.
So, okay, so the next thing is we're going to need to make a motion on the ordinance.
I'll move that we approve the 2020 Transportation System Plan and related Coos Bay Municipal Code amendments with adoption of attached proposed ordinance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to enact the ordinance to amend Coos Bay Municipal Code Title 17 and update the comprehensive plan transportation element. Melissa, you want to do a roll call on this?
I will, thank you. An ordinance adopting an updated transportation system plan, TSP, amending the Coos Bay Comprehensive Plan and amending Title 17 of the Coos Bay Municipal Code. Councilor DeNovo?
Aye.
Councilor Farmer?
Aye.
Councilor Kilmer?
Aye.
Councilor Marlar?
Aye.
Mayor Benetti?
Aye.
Ordinance number 526 has been duly enacted.
Thank you. And thank you both for the information and the presentation and the report.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You don't have too far to travel,
Angela.
do you? No, not too far to travel, right? You're close home? You're at home? All right. All right.
Right.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Do we have more presentations, Roger, on these?
No.
So the next item is, go back to this, approval of the 2020 spring fall asphalt maintenance to be completed by Knife River Materials. Roger, you're going to be handling this, I understand?
I will be. As the council is aware, we just completed a number of capital street improvement projects for the spring, early summer time period. That will be followed by undertaking a number of pothole repair projects. Staff put together a list of potential projects and took that to Knife River for a bid. And I should start out by saying we have approximately $130,000 to undertake pothole projects at this time. Now, we'll have more projects this year as we move into the fall. We'll do another round of capital street improvements and more pothole projects. Currently, though, we have $130,000. Staff's identified a number of potholes. We got the bids for $25,500. Great bid. In addition, staff would like to move up one of the capital street improvement projects up to that list, and that would be to finish off Donnelly. Last year, we took on half a street project on Donnelly between 6th and 7th. That was a concrete street that had failed, and we have fire trucks that run over that, makes it worse. So they did half a block. Staff wants to finish that off before where the asphalt marries up with concrete breaks down, and we have the problem all over again. In addition, there's been a number of other potholes have been identified. In addition to that, I can tell you that 2 of them are on the S-curves for Coos Bay Boulevard. They're depressions, and as you know, that's a main access road to our hospital, and our ambulance go up there. I think it's be great if those are, unfortunately, in the back of an ambulance have the smoothest ride as possible as they're going up to get medical services. In addition, there are other large potholes that have been put on the list that we'd like to take care of. To move forward, because we don't have a comprehensive list, what I'd like the council and request of you is to approve a contract not to exceed $130,000 and allow us to tackle a number of potholes. I really believe that great progress is being made on these projects, and here within a couple of years, we're going to be, that pothole project's going to be dwindling, and we're going to be doing more capital projects, which will benefit our citizens immensely.
So Roger, just so I'm clear, the 25,000 will take care of 15 potholes, and then the remaining funds will be take care of additional potholes plus some road repair. Is that correct?
Correct, on a time and materials basis.
Awesome, thank you.
So, Roger, on the potholes, are we using our machine to grind it out and squirt it off? And
Yes.
has that worked? How's that worked?
That's been working great, and those ones that we've already done are stable, they're not moving. That just provides a good road base. If by chance it's more than just the surface, then we're digging it out and putting a new road base in.
And so when did we figure this would save us in getting potholes done if we were able to do this machine?
You know, I don't recall the exact amount, but I know it's been very efficient, and the teamwork between our staff and Knife River has been phenomenal.
Great.
Does this also, because we're allowing more for these other projects, does that help them get a better price on the materials that they need for this as well?
It does. Actually, we received a good bid when we did the capital projects, and this is actually on that same bid price of tonnage.
All right, council, any more questions?
I have one question, Roger, and I think I mentioned this to you once before. Is this a fluid list where things are changing? I mean, is there a list of? I'm wondering, is that a list that we can see?
We can get you a list. It is fluid. As road conditions do change, some potholes become much worse than others.
I'd like to strongly suggest that even though the 4 or 5 block stretch of Ferguson needs to be fixed, Ferguson and 8th Street, South 8th, is a really, really bad hole. And it's a concrete street, and so those chunks of concrete are all broken and falling down in the hole. And I don't know the fix. I don't know if it's worth it to fix, since the whole street needs to be redone anyway. But when cars go down through there, they really bounce in that hole. And most of the time they pull over to the other lane just to go around it. But it's a sizable problem.
Councilor Marlar, where are you talking about?
Ferguson, you know where Ferguson is? It's the street that runs along the outfield of the baseball field at Marshfield.
Okay.
Between 7th and 11th, you know, it's a stretch, and it's all concrete, and it's a 1920 street.
Yeah.
And I think most of the infrastructure under that street is all worn out too. The storm lines are bad. The sewer is bad. I mean, it's going to be one of those major, like what happened to Golden when you do it. But there are some Band-Aids that need to be put on that street just to get us through for 4 or 5 more years.
We can certainly add it to the list.
I'd just like for staff to take a look at it and see, you know, okay, is this one more or less important than some of the ones we're already doing?
It's actually, I go and talk to Randy almost daily. I think he regrets his door opens. Because I drive around and I look around and I'll say, oh, no, this one's really bad. We need to put this on the list. I did it this morning.
The other one that I want to mention to it, and I know I've mentioned this to you in the past, and it's not a pothole. It's really not a street, but it's the rock wall on 12th Street that splits 12th in half. That metal piping is all rusted out. Chunks of that pipe are hanging. And I know once we start to repair it, we've got to bring it up to standards, and that's going to be a $2 or $3 million project. I have no doubt about that. But we're allowing foliage to grow out of that wall in between those blocks, and as those roots get bigger, I'm afraid they're going to push those rocks
loose, and it's going to accelerate the deterioration of that wall. The other thing I wonder is, are there any funds that we can tap into that would help us, maybe some federal funds, because it's holding an entire hillside of houses. And I don't know if there's anything available that we can tap into. It sure would be nice to see if we could get a grant to try to fix some of that.
We'll give that consideration. It actually is considered a historic wall. It was built right after World War II.
Wasn't it built by the Conservation Corps, the WPA, or
yes,
one of those?
Yeah, we have several walls in town that were done that way.
Yeah, and so it's, I think it's something that a lot of people in town identify with. It's been around for that long, and people like to see it. But the railings that are on it, I think we had a truck go over the edge of it about 8 or 10 years ago.
It's actually been 20 years.
Has it been 20? Oh my goodness. So that piping is getting really bad. But I just thought I'd mention that.
I think the good news is that City of Coos Bay does a really great job of getting grants. The bad news is you have a council that has the expectation that you'll just get more and more grants so we can finish these projects. So.
Yeah, I just want him to open his wallet and get more money out. That's all. Thank you.
All right. So any more comments on this item? If not, I need a motion, please.
I'll move to approve pothole repair quote from Knife River Materials for $25,500. In addition to the pothole repairs, authorize staff to use the balance of the approved pothole funds, $104,500, to be used on other potholes throughout the city, and to complete the rest of Donley Avenue between 6th and 7th Streets, including new ADA curb ramps. Total not to exceed $130,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve repairs for potholes and repairs on streets not to exceed $130,000 to Knife River. Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you. Award of, I'll get there. Award of construction bid for Myrtle Avenue Storm Drain Realignment Project. I think we got an update on this last time, but who's going to handle this, Jennifer or
yes, Jennifer?
Roger? Jennifer? Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
So last year, we found a sinkhole on private property that was reported. Staff investigated and determined that the sinkhole was caused by a public storm sewer that had significant deficiencies. The storm sewer was aligned along private property from Myrtle Avenue to Laurel Avenue. The project scope is to abandon the 430 feet of concrete pipe along private property and replace with 580 feet of PVC pipe in a public right-of-way. So it would go east along Myrtle to South 14th, south along South 14th, and then west along south along North 14th to Laurel, and then west along Laurel to the outfall. If this project is not repaired, it has the potential to have a significant adverse impact on private property. As a result, it was deemed an emergency/unplanned project. 3 responsive bids for construction were received and opened on August 5th, 2020. They were from Benny Hempstead Excavation for $497,325, Johnson Rock Products for $417,939, and Billerton Marine for $431,300. The engineer's estimate was $367,200. The engineer is recommending that the city accept the responsive bid from Johnson Rock Products. The source of these funds will come from the Wastewater Improvement Fund 29, the unplanned emergency line item. If it pleases council, award the Myrtle Avenue Storm Drain Realignment Project to Johnson Rock Products in the amount of $417,939 plus a 15% contingency for a total amount of $480,630.
So if we use those funds, what's left in the unplanned emergency?
It's a good question. I might look over to Nicole here, but we originally budgeted $2 million. Then there's an extra $2 million put in there, correct, Nicole? So it's $4 million.
So Jennifer, I'm sorry, is it Fund 29 that we're taking these funds out
Fund
of?
29 for
Okay.
this emergency.
Okay.
So tonight we're going to be talking about several projects that just totaled just a little over 1 million. So it'll still leave a little under 3 million in that line item.
Okay.
And I can have Nicole. Thank you.
Okay,
So
thank you.
does that stay stagnant? Does that just keep depleting?
What
The fund?
ideally, no, but we'd like to leave some reserves to get us through this fiscal year for the unknown projects
No,
that will
okay,
happen.
so we add to them every year then?
Yes.
Okay. Council, questions? Unfortunately, this one didn't come in under the estimate, but.
It was in 15%. That is tolerable. We're also bidding late. COVID, the design did not get out till late. We like to be bidding. We like to come to you guys around June.
Right.
So for this time of year, we were actually very happy with this bid.
So on all these 15%, I know that I'm not the only one that thinks about this. So we monitor that, correct? So, I mean, it's just like, well, it's just not tacked on because
The
for whatever
contingency.
reason, right? So it's got to be submitted as a change order or something that needs to be done to get that 15%. Is that correct?
That's correct. And in talking with staff, and we've talked about history of contingency. Actually, we do not use contingency most of the time.
Good. Okay.
But there are times, and when it is used, it's because there's a major unknown issue that's been uncovered.
No, I totally understand because you never know. Hopefully, there won't be more to it than there is. But anyway, questions? Anyone? Comments? We don't get Jennifer down here very often, so.
Do we need a motion, Mr. Ryan?
Please.
I'll move to award the Myrtle Avenue Storm Drain Realignment Project to Johnson Rock Products in the amount of $417,939 plus a 15% contingency for a total amount of $480,630.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to award Myrtle Avenue Storm Drain Realignment Project to Johnson Rock, a little bidder. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you. Whoop. You're not going anywhere, Jennifer, so you must be up again.
Not. She's making up for lots of time.
Minutes.
The Jennifer Show.
All right, so award of construction bid for North 12th Street sewer replacement.
Okay. Last year, a sinkhole was discovered near the sidewalk along North 12th Street between Alder and Birch Avenue. Upon investigation, it was determined the sinkhole was caused by deficiencies in the public sanitary sewer line. The city contracted with Civil West for design services, and the project was advertised in July. Bids for construction were opened August 12th. 2 bids were received. Villager Marine LLC for $358,754 and Jesse Rodriguez for $238,065. The engineer's estimate was $264,560. The engineer is recommending that the city accepts the responsive bid from Jesse Rodriguez Construction. The source of these funds are from the Wastewater Improvement Fund 29, Wastewater Unplanned Emergency line item. If it pleases council, award the North 12th Street Replacement Project to Jesse Rodriguez Construction for $238,065 plus a 15% contingency for a total amount of $273,775.
Questions?
Is that a new construction company? I've never heard of Jesse Rodriguez.
Jesse Rodriguez is from the valley, from the Grants Pass area, Medford Grants Pass area. They have done work for us. They did the Newmark storm drain realignment about a year and a half ago. They did a fantastic job.
Great.
Because didn't they bid something here recently and they didn't complete the bid properly and we couldn't consider it? Am I thinking of the same company?
Good memory, yes, but they got this one right.
All right.
We're doing bidding, and so it's a little new for some of these contractors. So yeah, they got a little tangled up there.
Okay. All right, council, other comments or questions? If not, I need a motion, please.
I move we award the North 12th Street Sewer Replacement Project to Jesse Rodriguez Construction for $238,065 plus a 15% contingency for a total of $273,775.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to award the North 12th Street replacement project to Jesse Rodriguez Construction, a little bidder. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Thank you. And Jennifer, you can't
Jennifer's
leave.
up again.
Yeah.
I am here for a little while.
Award of the construction bid for the 2020 bundled downtown infrastructure improvements.
Okay. So staff has identified several storm and sanitary sewer projects in the downtown area in need of repair. The projects have been bundled in an effort to get competitive bids, and they are identified as the 2020 downtown infrastructure improvements. Designs for each of the projects were prepared, and the city advertised 4 bids. And 4 bids were received August 11th. Let me explain where the 4 projects are. The first one is Anderson Avenue storm culvert replacement, located approximately 800 feet west of South 10th Street. We're going to remove and replace 75 feet of culvert with 8-inch PVC. The second one is the South 8th Street sewer replacement, located approximately 340 feet south of Anderson Avenue. We're going to remove and replace 35 feet of sanitary sewer with 8-inch PVC and remove and replace 1 manhole. The third project is North 2nd Street sewer replacement, located immediately north of Highland Avenue. It involves removing and replacing 175 feet of sanitary sewer with 8-inch PVC. And the fourth project is 3rd and Commercial storm sewer replacement, remove and replace 36 feet with 12-inch PVC. So we bidded on August 11th. The 4 bids were Benny Hempstead Excavation for $338,415, Upper Rogue Excavation for $218,943, Villager Marine for $388,621, and Jesse Rodriguez for $298,497. The engineer's estimate was $214,025. The engineer is recommending that the city accept the responsive bid from Upper Rogue Excavating. The source of funds for this contract are from the Wastewater Improvement Fund 29, the Wastewater Unplanned Emergency line item. If it pleases the council, award the 2020 bundled downtown infrastructure improvements contract to Upper Rogue Excavating for $218,943 plus a 15% contingency for a total amount of $251,784.
Have we used them before?
We haven't. But Dyer has.
Okay.
This is how it-
So Dyer has.
That sounds like a lot of work for $250,000.
Yeah.
We must be getting a pretty good bid on this.
That actually, if you look, this project came very close to the end.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were very excited about
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Council, comments, questions, motions?
Move that we award the 2020 bundled downtown infrastructure improvements contract to Upper Rogue Excavating for $218,943 plus a 15% contingency for a total amount of $251,784.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to award the 2020 bundled downtown infrastructure improvements contract to Upper Rogue Excavating. The low bidder. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you. You're still here. So next one is consideration of entering into an agreement for the design of the permanent chemical feeds system for Plant 2. Now, when this is done, Jennifer, we will never have another problem, correct? I've tried to sneak that in. Silence when I'm asked that, right?
Okay, the new wastewater treatment plant located in Empire started accepting and treating wastewater November 26, 2018. Due to numerous mechanical failures and programming issues, the startup was extended beyond normal startup periods and was not officially turned over to the city by the contractor until February 2020. Additionally, it was discovered during the startup period that the influent had lower than normal alkalinity levels. This condition was readily apparent in the winter months. Low alkalinity levels affect the nitrifiers, and the nitrifiers are not adequately fed when the treatment process suffers. Further investigation by staff yielded that during the planning stages of design, this issue was brought up and it was suggested that alkalinity addition may be required. However, the final design did not incorporate this. Currently, the plant is a temporary chemical feed system that supplements alkalinity to the plant's influent. Jacobs, formerly CH2M, who is responsible for final design of Plant 2, has agreed to provide design services for a permanent chemical feed system at no cost to the city for exchange to releasing Jacobs from any future claims. However, the release of claims does not release any claim or potential claim that the city may have in regards to the proposed permanent chemical feed system yet to be designed and constructed. The city will be responsible for construction of the permanent chemical feed system. However, important to note, the system should have been installed initially and would have been at a cost to the city. They would have incurred that anyways. Staff is recommending that the city enter into this agreement with Jacobs and proceed forward with final design of a permanent chemical feed system. So the budget implications. With respect to design, there is no impact to budget. Once design is complete and cost estimates have been prepared for construction, staff will present budget options to council for consideration. So if it pleases council, direct staff to enter into the agreement regarding wastewater treatment plant to alkalinity addition system design.
Is there any idea what the cost might be? I won't hold you to it, but are we looking at?
It's weird. It's all dependent on where we can put in the eye wash station. And I know it seems weird, but it has to be tempered water, and we just didn't plumb for it. So if we could put it where we want, if code allows us, we're looking in the realm of $50,000. If we can't put it where code wants, it could be about $150,000.
So, but just put things in perspective that even though it's between 50 and 150,000, this is still way under the cost that we anticipated, right? By $2 million, am I correct?
That's what we're currently being told, yes. I'm sorry, what was the price you said?
He was talking about the overall cost of the plant, what we originally was agreed to and what we paid today.
Right. Yes. So, I mean, we're still $2 million in the plant, plus some extra.
For the entire construction.
$1.5 million.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's closer to that.
All right. So that's good. All right.
The only thing I have is, so they're going to do this in exchange for releasing Jacobs from any future claims.
I've had quite the conversation with both Nate and Jennifer on this. The reality is, while I don't really like it, if we really were having issues, we would know what the design issues are. Because we've been, in essence, playing with the plant for 2 years. So I think any design flaws have already been identified. I don't believe we're really losing out on anything, but we are getting them to come to the table and provide you free design services. And to be honest, I think that's really because we had a fine negotiator.
Well done, you. Okay, so just to be clear, the claims would be on the design of this new chemical feed system.
The claims that you're giving up on is any other claims for the past design of the entire plant. What you're not giving up on is potential claims that you could have on errors or omissions for the design of this particular piece.
Just this particular piece.
Correct. And I think what staff is recommending, and to be honest with you, I had to be talked into this because I wasn't sure this is a great idea. But I've been convinced that we would have already known about any design flaws. They would already come to light.
Okay.
And so any other issues that come up, they're really not design flaws. They'll be construction issues.
Is this considered the piece that we were having problems with that led to the releases that came out regarding bacteria or whatever, really the
recently?
issues that we've had that we've reported to DEQ
recently?
Yeah, I think the last couple of weeks. It was more in the shakeout crews of the new plant that we were having issues with this operating issue. It was somewhat of a red herring at times that was the cause of why the plant wouldn't operate right. And it was more programming and other issues related to that. More recently, we had an issue when we were trying to take the plant down to one basin, and there was a mechanical failure. And what's come up, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, in layman's term, what happened is while they were going through the shakeout cruise, they never took the plant down to one basin. And therefore, they didn't know that there was some programming errors. And that's resulted in some of the high people counts. I think those programming errors have been addressed.
They have been addressed, but if you guys remember, we talked to you about the sludge cycle. And it's a 20-day sludge cycle, and it takes 2 sludge cycles to get back to really equilibrium. So that's where we're at right now. The numbers are going in the right direction. So once we got the programming error fixed by Xylem, who is the proprietary of our technology, it's better now.
So not really related to this at all.
This is more of a winter issue.
Okay.
How long will it take to get this done?
I've asked him, he can have design in 3 months, and construction should take anywhere between 3 months to 6 months, depending on how we want to craft the contract.
But currently, we have a temporary workaround solution.
You know exactly what I'm
That's
Yes.
the next question I was gonna ask.
We've actually been dosing for over a year and a half with magnesium hydroxide. It's a how our engineer relates, it's like a milk of magnesia.
Thank you.
Questions, Phil, Drew?
No, I just have serious concerns about giving up the ability to pursue any future claims the way it's going. And I feel like there was some discussion we were having in executive session that I might like to explore more if we're going to talk about this. But I know Nate's not here today.
Past potential litigation was not with our designer. It was actually with our contractor, and all those contract issues now have been resolved.
Okay.
So I think the time for errors and admissions claims on the actual design of the plant are waning. Now we could have gone out for errors and omissions on the failure to design this, but what you have here is you have the designer coming forward and saying, I'll make it right by designing it to fix it, no cost.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's no cost on the design, it's just a cost on the fixing of the construction part.
So it would have been more if we'd have had to fix this.
Yeah, if that design would have been included in the plan, we probably would have had to pay extra anyways. I don't know that we're really out anything other than the inconvenience that we've been up to this point, but nothing fixes that now.
And Nate is comfortable with this agreement?
Yeah, and Nate had some, was helpful in recrafting some language to his liking.
Well, nice job negotiating.
Thank you.
More questions, comments? If not, if it pleases the council, we need a motion.
I'll make the motion to direct staff to enter into the agreement regarding wastewater treatment plant 2 alkalinity addition system design.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to direct staff to enter into the agreement presented August 10, 2020 regarding wastewater treatment plant 2 alkalinity addition system design. Question, any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you, Jennifer.
Last one.
I know. Consideration of entering into a cooperative improvement agreement for the Coos Bay Village development.
Okay. So upon completion of the Coos Bay Village project, there'll be an increase of traffic, and thus a signal improvement was warranted at the Hemlock Avenue and Highway 101 intersection. Design has been performed for the signal crossing, and the Oregon Department of Transportation, ODOT, has approved the design. As a result, ODOT has issued a cooperative improvement agreement for construction, operation, and maintenance of the signal crossing. This agreement is between ODOT, the city, the port, and Rockbase LLC, who is the developer for Coos Bay Village. The agreement outlines terms and obligations for each entity. With respect to the city's obligations, they are summarized as follows. The city is responsible for electrical costs. The city is responsible for cost of maintenance. They're responsible to comply with Oregon's workers' compensation rules, and they need to grant the state the right to enter the city right-of-way. Staff coordinated with the developer and the port, and while the developer had no comments, the port was concerned with some of the language. The port felt if they needed to be party to this agreement, then they needed language changed under the obligations that reference federal laws as opposed to state laws regarding employee compensation. Furthermore, the port requested indemnification under the developer's section, item 12. They wanted to be named as additionally insured, and they are requesting that the insurance requirements include railroad liability insurance. All of these comments were provided to ODOT, and ODOT did not see any concerns and is currently amending the language to satisfy the port's comments. Once the language is updated and the port has approved the changes, staff is recommending that the city enter into this agreement with ODOT, the port, and the developer. Once this agreement has been executed by all parties and the signal crossing project can be advertised for bids, it's anticipated that construction will take 6 months to complete. There's no budget implications. However, when complete and accepted by the city, the signal will be added to the rest of the city's traffic signal maintenance inventory. If it pleases council, authorize staff to enter the cooperative improvement agreement for Coos Village development. I emailed ODOT today. I did not receive a response, but we should have that. We should have the final version, or at least the amended version, addressing the court's concerns. I'm hoping soon. And I did confirm that they're not changing anything to the city obligations.
Is it common for a traffic signal on a state highway for the city to have to maintain it?
That evidently is a new business practice for ODOT. The current traffic signals on 101 are maintained and owned by ODOT. We accidentally get billed for the power consumption, but then we're reimbursed by ODOT. We own the rest of the signals in the city, which there are, I think, 7. If I remember right, and we maintain those. I believe the one in North Bend, the new one in North Bend on Virginia, is similar to our agreement.
And that's correct, and that's what my ODOT contact said. This is exactly how they handled the one in North Bend, and they basically said that if it wasn't for the development, they wouldn't be putting in the signal.
Well, no, really, if it wasn't for the railroad, we wouldn't be putting in signal. Yeah.
There's also,
I see what they're saying. They're just saying that if there wasn't development going on there wouldn't be a need to have a signal.
Yeah, I think as far as the signal itself, and this is just the signal. This is not the rail.
Correct.
That's another agreement yet.
From who? Rail?
No, it's coming from the port.
The port. Although I believe ODOT Rail will be a party to it.
So even if we didn't have a railroad there, we would have had to have a traffic signal because of the traffic counts, the number of cars crossing all those lanes 101.
Thank you. I stand corrected in this instance.
Only this once, though, right?
But you're right. So this is not the norm. So does ODOT maintain this and then bill us?
Correct.
Yes, we currently have a maintenance agreement with ODOT for our traffic signals, so they're on contract already. And I want to say it's about $40,000 a year we spend with them for signal maintenance.
Okay. So this is more than for just the Coos Bay Village. This access will be for the museum and potential front streets also, correct?
You're correct.
Yes.
All right, council, questions? More? Jennifer wants out of here.
I'll move to authorize staff to enter into the cooperative improvement agreement for Coos Village development.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize staff to enter into the cooperative improvement agreement for Coos Village development. Any other comments or questions? So this one at least isn't wastewater.
That's correct.
Yeah. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
Appreciate
you, Jennifer.
It. Good job.
Good to see you.
City manager's report.
So I have a couple of taking care of business issues. As the council's aware, the upcoming League of Oregon Cities annual conference is coming up October 14th through 15th. Generally, this is a conference that we travel to ourselves and representatives from 236 other cities, I believe is correct, somewhere in that realm. It's a rather large conference and something that's been beneficial to the city in the past. This year, because of the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, this will be a virtual conference. Along with this conference every year, there is an annual business meeting of the cities. And the league has asked us to choose a delegate, or for you to choose a delegate, who will vote on your behalf along with representatives from the other 230 some cities. So with that, is there someone among you that...
Well, Lucinda's already signed up, so I nominate Lucinda.
Second.
Wait,
I think I heard the railroad again.
you're quick, you beat me. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
So, okay.
It would be my honor. Drew, you can't do it. It's a conflict.
I'm on the
Because you're on the
committee already.
Okay, good.
The next taking care of business item had to do with work sessions prior to the COVID-19 restrictions. This council was meeting at least twice a month for work sessions and had been doing so since the fall of 2016. There has been questions. Some of you have questioned whether or not is it time to resume that. If we do resume it, how often should you meet? Should it be twice a month like you were doing prior to March of this year, or would you like to drop it to one? As part of that discussion, I know the mayor has talked to me that he would like to hold those work sessions here. We are going to get the council chambers outfitted with some partition barriers, and plus, should you wish, you could also live stream your work sessions. If you choose to hold it here, you were holding your meetings on Tuesday nights. I just wanted to let you know that while you use this meet room on the first and third Tuesdays of every month, the Planning Commission uses it on the second Tuesday of every month. If you wanted to meet twice and wanted to meet in here, we would just have to find another place for the Planning Commission meeting. Or you have the option, if you wanted to just try out one work session a month, you could look at the fourth Tuesday of each month.
I would suggest, and I mentioned this with Roger, but it's up to you. I'd like this to try to get back into work session in some fashion, get some normality back. But if we just did it once a month and did it on the 4th, we can have it here. We'll have the plexiglass up and the barriers. Planning Commission still be here, and they still have the same safety that we have, and it won't conflict with anything. And it's a way to start out and go from there.
So it's not a permanent, just one. It would just, we would start
Well,
out
I think,
that way.
I think I mean, ideally to get back into two, but under the circumstances and regulations of the governor and where we're at, I don't know when that will change.
Okay.
So I think this is a start, and we just go from there and play it by ear. So
it's a great idea.
Is everyone all right with that?
I like it.
I like it because it presents a little less, a little more easy access for the public.
Yep,
to
I
come
totally
and
agree.
communicate with us.
And so I also, at this time, we haven't had a big indication where they had changed things. So if everyone's applicable to it, we'll do the meetings at 7 o'clock, the council meetings, and the work session at 5:30. That work? On the 4th?
Works for me.
Yep. And then but it's up for change anytime. But we can start there and we'll go from there. See what happens.
Great.
All right.
Sounds good. Then the last item I had two items, I guess. Get back to my list here. I had a request from the Empire Community Coalition of Empire. They would like to focus and capitalize on the historic history of Empire, and they had a brainstorming session last month, and they came out with several ideas. One was to consider looking at historic-looking street signs or sign toppers, wayfinding signs to historic places of interest, historic markers on historic buildings or homes, new welcome to historic Empire signs at the main entrances to the Empire District. And I began thinking about this, Councilor Miles sent me an email on this as well, and I began thinking back about when the city council went through the master planning process for the honoring place, and how it was very inclusive, and you made sure that you got everybody's opinion, not just a few select people of a group. And even then, not everybody agreed, even after it was accepted, but at least it was well vetted. My thought is this needs a lot more vetting that before you move forward, because how do you know which one's right and where does the money come from? You are getting close to your maximum indebtedness for the Empire District, and I think you have to move carefully as you move forward, because you do have some items that have already been set aside for future expenses. So my thought was, as we talked at the last council meeting about the potential of a federal grant, one that possibly could fit very well with the opportunity zone that's in Empire, is that maybe we look at this for some master planning process where someone is hired, a consultant is hired to lead that community through a process, and the agency to look at possibilities. so that we could actually look at see what would work and what wouldn't, and get some visualization and public input on the process. So if you're all right with that, we'll include that because we'll be working on our list of potential projects out there.
Great. I agree. I think, especially with some of the discussions that we had even here tonight on things that could possibly be changing, I would hate to sink a lot of money into something without a plan, knowing that we have some other things that are happening at that intersection, and you know, other work and activity that's happening around that with some city projects. So I think it's important that we develop some sort of a plan. I think it still moves that idea forward from the coalition. I applaud their creativity.
Yeah.
They are really trying to make Empire more beautiful.
I did talk with their, I think it's the proper term is president, Joanne Moss, and presented this idea, and she was very favorable of this approach.
I think it would be nice to include both of the tribes in the process as well, because that's an historic place for the tribes as well.
If there's somewhere out there as a venue, it would be a good time to go do another listening session as well. We did one previously with regards to the roads to determine spending on the urban renewal dollars, but that was 3 years ago now.
Yeah, no, it was good, and you know, maybe we can't have it there, but we can have it here if you depending on the time frame. Again, we'll have a little bit safer environment here with the constraints, but it doesn't mean it stops us from moving forward with the discussion.
All right, my last item has to do with the public access channel. As you'll see, we have our cameraman here tonight. It almost seems like we're getting back to some semblance of normal.
Yes. I'm shocked and surprised and pleased.
But I had a discussion with two of their representatives and their vision on moving forward. They have a gentleman that has 40 years of experience in broadcasting. That's assisting them now, and we have a very energetic leader with Dean Martin that would like to move the channel forward. Currently, they're having to upload all of their information in an old format. They would like to be able to upload their information directly to Spectrum and a newer format, but they're going to probably need some help in negotiating that. The reality is the public access channel only exists because we have a franchise agreement formerly with Falcon Cable, which has changed a few times.
Yep.
And that provides that link that causes or allows them to exist. This could require some renegotiations on that. But if you don't mind, at least I can begin the steps for it. It might be rather easy. They're also looking for a more permanent home. They have a studio currently over on Maple Leaf in North Bend on, I believe it's airport property. And they actually have a studio set up. They showed me their screenshots where they can have almost any type of background. For those who will be running in the upcoming election, they're going to invite you all. You want to come down and have a session and provide information you'd like the voters to know, and they'll do that for every person running in the election. They're trying to be more inclusive. They're also going to be talking with school districts about providing distance education through their channel. Some people don't have internet, but they may have cable TV.
Yeah.
So
very good.
there's lots of different ideas. They're very energetic. And I think I would hate to stifle them as they try to move that technology forward for them.
Great. Is everyone all right with that? Good. Good luck on that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I would be interested to know what their viewership is, and if they have access to that.
We can ask. I'm not sure they know that. I don't think that information is provided to them. I am constantly amazed on how many people that I run into say, I saw you on public access. I saw your council meeting.
That's good.
That concludes my report.
Thanks, Roger. Council comments. Drew?
Not a whole lot. I just wanted to comment on some of what we heard towards the start. I feel like we've done a good job acknowledging what we've seen happening in the community lately. I know we've all put out our own statements opposing racism, so I feel like that's another thing to reiterate because it sounded like some individuals may not have heard that. I feel like there needs to be an acknowledgement also the high level of integrity of our staff, because one of the individuals brought up that there's an investigation going on as though it's some outside agency that looked into Coos Bay and then decided they're going to come investigate. And it needs to be understood that that's not the case, that somebody outside has decided they're going to look at what's going on here. It's an event occurred within the city, and then people had their perspectives on it, and in an act of integrity, someone outside of our city was sought out who can be an independent observer to make critiques. And I think that speaks highly as to our staff, because it takes a lot to say someone else come look at me and see what I might have done different.
So just so I'm clear, it was sought out by our city, is that
Yes.
correct? Good.
Yeah, to make sure we had an independent and arbitrary view of the allegations that were made against our staff.
Yep.
And if I may clarify one step farther, the city has not received any firsthand knowledge or any firsthand complaints about those allegations. There are allegations that surfaced on social media and were not made here at the city.
And so that investigator has been, his information and how to contact him has been put out on the Friday Update in our Facebook. And so anyone can contact him with any information if they feel it's apropos and meets what they need to do. So this is independent.
I think that that's important too, to note that we want people to feel comfortable enough that they can present that if they have something.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you.
Sorry, Drew. We had all.
That's okay. I appreciate y'all clarifying me, because I started into it and then I got a little lost. But yeah, the last thing, the first presenter, I think it was Genevieve, brought up the idea of a state safe house. I'm not sure that would be something that the city would do, but I can think, I was sitting here listing and I came up with 5 organizations that would have an interest in something like that being founded, or at least one potential grantor to make something like that, because it is a known issue, and it's an issue that I've seen as an individual identifies a certain way and then their family doesn't want them at the house anymore. So I would say that it is a problem that exists in the world. I don't think it's unique. I know it's not unique to our community, because I knew somebody that worked at that same kind of safe house in Seattle. But I like the idea of that, and I don't know that it's a city item, but if members of the community would want to talk to me about that, where they might look for grants, who they might talk to about it, I'm happy to talk to somebody about an idea like that. But that's all I got.
Thanks, Drew. Good comments. Bill?
I don't have anything at all.
All right, Stephanie?
I don't have anything, but I do want to say that, Drew, I appreciate your comments. They were very clear. I just think it's important to emphasize those 2 things, and that's why I spoke up, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Sandra?
I guess I just thank you, Drew, for your comments. And again, people are more than welcome to come to city council meetings and express their opinions, but opinions aren't facts. And so I just want to clarify, we chose as a council to put that ordinance together, that resolution together about being anti-racist. I know there were members of the community that asked us to do that as well. We had been talking about doing work, equity and inclusion work. We talked about it in our goal setting session, so it was not new. We have attempted to have some listening sessions. I know because of COVID, that's challenging, but in those listening sessions, it was to bring the subgroups that we're talking about, LGBTQ+, BIPOC people,
And so we have been doing things, and some of the things that are being requested from these citizens are not the responsibility of the city. And why we are empathetic to the cause, I think all of us are as a council, and that is why we passed that resolution in the first place. There is only so much we can do. I also want to commend the police department for their patience. And I think as Roger reported out, 62% of our police force was at a protest most recently. That was a large group of our police officers there. And I want to thank them for their diligence. That has been, I think, the most disappointing thing for me, is that allegations have been made, and to your point, Roger, we have not had anyone come to the city and report that information out, and our police department has suffered. Our police department has suffered, and I'm always concerned about morale. I'm always concerned about the staff's morale, and so to hear continually that this city is not doing anything. As a person of color myself, I am proud of the work that this city is doing. I am proud of the Coos Bay Police Department. And while I will acknowledge there are racist people in this community, I stand with the fact that we acknowledged as a city that we would continue to do training for the staff, but the police department and the staff of this city is not the problem. And people are pointing their fingers at the wrong people. And that is all I have to say.
And I will leave my comments at the end of that. Let that speak for itself. Very well said, Lucinda. I appreciate it. Drew, everyone. And that's a good way to end. And so now we have one Stephanie on the renewal.
Did we need a break before? Or you want to continue on? Then I will call the meeting of the Coos Bay Urban Renewal Agency to order. And our first item on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any? Then we will move on to item number two. Item number 2,
right.
the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the consent calendar and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is the acceptance of the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department grant and award of contract for the replacement of the Egyptian Theater roof membrane system. Oh, and I can't get it to come up here.
I can take that.
You're going to take that? Okay.
I can. The city or the Urban Renewal Agency purchased the Egyptian Theater back in late 2005, early 2006. When it was closed down, it looked like it was going dark, and parts of the theater was going to be parted out. The city entered a partnership with what we now know as the Egyptian Theater Preservation Association, and they have since that time managed the facility. There was a brief period of time where the theater had to be closed again due to structural issues back in 2011. It was reopened in 2012, and it's been a functioning theater since that time. While the work done in 2011 addressed a number of structural issues that were which made the building into the dangerous category, those have been addressed. There were still many other issues that need to be addressed, which is not uncommon for a building that was built in 1924. One of the issues that needs to be addressed is the roof. The Egyptian Theater Preservation Association wrote a grant request and received a grant award of $64,200. In addition, they were given a large sum of funds to either take care of maintenance issues or operational expenses. They have chosen to use those funds to repair or replace the roof. This is where that partnership comes in. We are still the owners of the building, therefore it is up to us to go out and seek bids and then to manage a contract. What you're being asked to do today is to, one, accept the grant from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department. Two, accept funds from the ETPA for the remainder of the repair for the roof, the remainder cost, and then to authorize me to enter a contract with LP Metal Works LLC to replace the Egyptian Theater roof in the amount of $122,571 plus a 15% contingency for a total not to exceed $140,957.
Are there any questions regarding this item? Do we need to take this one at a time?
I think you can actually do all three in one motion.
So I would entertain a motion.
I move to accept the grant from Oregon Parks and Recreation Department and authorize the agency manager to enter into an agreement with OPRD for the historical preservation grant in the amount of $64,200 to assist with the replacement of the Egyptian Theater roof. 2, accept the ETPA transfer of funds to pay the balance of the cost to replace the roof not covered by the grant, plus contingency, for a total of $76,756. Any balance not utilized by the roof project will be returned to the ETPA. 3, authorize the agency manager to enter into a contract with LP Metal Works LLC to replace the Egyptian Theater roof in the amount of $122,571, plus a 15% contingency of $18,386 for a total not to exceed $140,957.
Second.
Great job there.
Yeah, you guys are on your own for the rest of it.
All right, any discussion? We have a motion for those 3 items. I'm not going to repeat them all. Lucinda did a great job. And a second. And no further discussion. How do the board members wish to proceed? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. What?
All those opposed? Sorry.
It's okay.
You knew what I meant.
Yep.
The motion carries. And our second item is approval of the Coos Bay Downtown Association and Urban Renewal Agency Main Street Management Agreement. Roger, are you going to take this one as well?
I will. And I want to start out by letting you know up front that I'm going to ask you to postpone any decision on this matter until it can be revisited at your September 1st meeting. Part of that is because I believe additional consideration is going to be needed by the agency. In addition, representatives from the Coos Bay Downtown Association were unable to make it tonight. And there are some decisions for you to consider. As far as background, the Coos Bay Urban Renewal Agency has partnered with the Coos Bay Downtown Association for a number of years to improve the economic viability of the downtown and to help ensure that it flourishes. In all the years that I've been with the city, I would tell you, even with the COVID-19 restrictions, our downtown has never flourished as much as it has in the last 20-some years that I've seen. I think a lot of that is due to the fact that they have implemented the strategies, the proven strategies of the Oregon Main Street Plan. Since 2012, the agency has specifically contracted with the Coos Bay Downtown Association to implement those strategies, and those strategies center around the 4 pillars of Main Street, and that is organization, promotion, design, and economic vitality. The agency, when it began contracting with the Coos Bay Downtown Association to implement those strategies on our behalf, the agency contracted for $24,000 annually. That changed several years after that initial agreement, and it was increased to $30,000. And most recently in 2017, it was increased to $35,000. Our current agreement expired on June 30th, and we began looking at successor agreements. And I would point out that Carolyn Johnson took lead on this project. Carolyn has been involved with the Coos Bay Downtown Association on the Economic Vitality Committee, as well as our chair, who chairs that committee and is a member of the Downtown Association. There are two different agreements here because there's two different lines of thought. There is one that is the more traditional agreement, similar to the one we've had where we contract or you contract with the Coos Bay Downtown Association to implement those 4 strategies and to operate those 4 different committees. And I should share that they don't do this just by themselves. They're in constant communication with the Oregon Main Street director. The other line of thought is to split the duties and have the Coos Bay Downtown Association take care of organization and promotion, 2 very strong areas that they excel in, and then to have the agency or the city spearhead design through the design assistance team and economic vitality through the agency itself. The latter does put more work on staff's plate, and while we have a very energetic and more than capable community development administrator, I sometimes worry that the plate gets too full. We can't always take on every project that we want to do, and sometimes we have to divert attention when we have work coming in for applicants or other projects. I know that I believe we have both Carolyn online, and we also, I believe we have Rob Crocker, who asked to be able to weigh in. Rob Crocker owns several properties in downtown Coos Bay and is also an active member of the Economic Vitality Committee, and he brings a different perspective as he was a member of the Oregon City Main Street program that operated somewhat differently than ours. So with that, I'll leave it open for how you want to proceed. If you'd like Carolyn to weigh in, or if you'd like to have Rob Crocker address the group.
I think if they're willing, do you mind if we hear from Carolyn and Rob?
No.
That's a great idea.
No.
Carolyn, we'll throw it to you first. We can't hear you.
On mute though.
Got it. Can you hear me now?
That's it.
Thank you. Well, first I want to say you've got a very enthusiastic downtown association group. I've been very impressed with them since I've been here. A lot of love for the downtown community that I see with these folks. The other thing that I see is they're all very busy, working, making a living, doing what they need to do every day, and it can be challenging for them to sit on these committees and do the work they do. But they're just really exemplary, regardless. One of the things that we thought about when drafting this alternative agreement was if or how we could take some of what we are already doing and wrap it around 2 of the 4 Main Street pillars, to take some of the work off of the CDDA, but to continue using their different committees that they already have set up, in addition to the city's design assistance team related to the design committee. The individuals that are on, for instance, the Economic Vitality Committee, they're Mr. John Bacon, Rob Crocker, Stephanie is the chair, Ariana Lyons, she's on the design assistance team as well. Stephanie, I'm probably forgetting somebody, but it's a good group, and they would continue to work on that committee if you were to examine this alternative agreement. The design committee I don't know as much about, but
it's my understanding that they've got some irons in the fire that they could keep going if you went with the alternative agreement. I think what's important, though, is that to enter into a new agreement with the Downtown Association, there's be some really strong clarity from you as to what your expectations would be, regardless of the agreement you select. And so I would like to echo Roger's statement about moving this to September 1st. I'm available for questions and happy to work on this. It's great work. Thanks.
Rob, are you there?
Yeah, I am here.
Did we lose you?
Hit the wrong button.
Uh-oh. Well, maybe he'll come back in. Are there any questions?
Well, it sounds like
from the agency.
It sounds like you'll be bringing this back to us. So if Rob doesn't get back on the call, can we hear from him the next time?
Yeah, September I would.
Or before
September
that, is that
1st.
right?
Yeah, I think he can be part of the agenda at the end.
I think.
Sorry about that, guys.
Are you back? Rob Crocker?
I'm back. Sorry, I got so excited I actually hit the end button. So I want to echo the sentiment from both Roger and Carolyn. I think the energy and enthusiasm and the quality of the members of both CBA and the volunteers and the board members, as well as Economic Vitality Group, is beholden to no one. Really excited with the ideas and the energy. My experience is that oftentimes, though, because they are very high-powered people who care a lot, most of them are involved in a lot of different things, whether that be with city council or with running their own businesses or with SBDC or SBDC, all the different acronyms. That oftentimes we have a lot of great thoughts and ideas, but actually having somebody with the time and resources and energy to execute on those ideas sometimes gets difficult. So I think whatever solution that the CDBA could come up with in tandem with urban renewal to help us find ways that we can better execute on the great thinking and strategies that come up are going to benefit the entire city. In my experience, and I won't give any advice, I can just share my own experience in Oregon City. It was a very successful group. The makeup, the Main Street program in Oregon City was put together, and its first priority really was kind of fixing up the blighted downtown. There really wasn't any. There weren't any events. Not like the very successful farmers market event we had, the Blackberry Festival, and some of the other things. So we really didn't have anything to promote and start with. We really just focused on the development aspect of things, of design and storefront improvement and economic vitality, kind of recruiting new businesses. And because of that, the executive director that we got had that kind of a mindset and that kind of experience, and it worked really well. I think, with the situation Coos Bay is in, the Downtown Association already has such a great track record of the downtown events of bringing people into the downtown. Now adding on top of that the real need for the economic vitality portion is proving to be, I think, just challenging. I think it's just being able to find the right personnel and resources is a stretch, and especially if the downtown, if the urban renewal agency wants to expand the district into Front Street and Coos Bay Village. I think being able to find a way to help parse out some of the responsibilities could be very beneficial for the organization. And if that's tapping into city resources, city staff, that might be a great solution. If there's something else, there may be other solutions as well. But again, I just want to reiterate how how proud I am to be just a small part of what's going on here, and put my full support behind the urban renewal district and the city. Great strides being made, and I just want to support in any way I can. But I will say, I think having a plan and a solution to be able to get the manpower and the resources so we can actually execute on the great ideas we have is going to be paramount to us coming out of this whole COVID thing a lot stronger in the next 2 or 3 years. Sorry, long-winded. I'm done.
No, that's great. Appreciate that. So any other questions of either Rob or Carolyn, or at this point, do we just want to go ahead and postpone this? And
Yes, we'll go ahead and postpone it. Now, one thing that was identified that we failed to do was to provide you what does the current agreement look like, so that you have an opportunity to compare and contrast what we're looking at. I think the more traditional agreement also included some items that were identified by the Coos Bay Downtown Association in their strategic plans. Some of it may be appropriate, not other measurables. It may be more of a lofty goal, and maybe it shouldn't be in there, shouldn't be a measurable. So it'll give us more time to consider and more time to interact with it.
I think it'll give the Coos Bay Downtown, this is a management agreement, and it will give them an opportunity to look at it and compare it and discuss it, the impact or the implications from it as well. They meet next week.
Oh, great. Okay.
No, I agree. Whatever we can do to help, they've been great. So.
All right. I don't think there's anything else. There is?
No, nothing else.
Oh, nothing else. Need to be able to split this screen here. All right, then with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.